Yes, that's right. 5 of the most celebrated guitarists on the planet, each of them running their entire career on a single note. These are the men worshipped on stadium stages, immortalized on magazine covers, and credited with changing music forever. And every single one of them built that legacy on one note. Not a riff or a solo, just one note. Let's dive in. His name is Dave Evans, but he calls himself The Edge, which sounds dangerous, sounds like a man living on the brink. And he is on a brink, the brink of falling completely asleep. In the early 1980s, U2 became the biggest band on the planet. They had the Flags, the Politics, Bono's mullet, and they had a guitar sound that filled entire stadiums. People heard "Where the Streets Have No Name" and thought they were listening to an orchestra. Surely this man must be playing 1,000 notes a minute. He wasn't. He was playing 2. Maybe? The Edge is not a guitar player. He is an IT technician with a strap. The secret to the U2 sound is called a dotted 8th note delay. You play one note. The machine repeats it back 3 times in a specific rhythm. Check the credits on The Joshua Tree. The real lead guitarist on that album is a Korg SDD 3000 rack unit. The Edge hits a string and waits. The machine goes digga digga digga. He hits another string. The machine goes digga digga digga. He takes all the credit. The machine does all the work. Take away his pedal board, and he sounds like a beginner trying to tune a banjo in a wind tunnel. By 1987, critics are calling him a minimalist genius. Minimalism. Great word. Fancy way of saying you don't know how to solo. While Eddie Van Halen was melting faces with actual technique, The Edge was standing in a beanie hat staring at his shoes, because that's apparently where the talent lives. In the documentary, It Might Get Loud, you see Jimmy Page playing Whole Lotta Love, raw, dangerous. You see Jack White fighting his guitar, and then you see The Edge explaining his rack equipment like he's presenting at a dental conference.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or you can go 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Shimmer, modulation, big words to hide the fact that he is terrified of scales. Keith Richards is a medical miracle. He should have died in 1973. He definitely should have died in 1978. He had several more confirmed chances in the 1980s, and yet here he is, looking like a leather handbag left in a tanning bed for 30 years, still holding a guitar. He has convinced the entire world that playing sloppy is cool. The Rolling Stones are called the greatest rock and roll band in the world. What they actually are is the loosest. Keith Richards does not play chords. He plays suggestions of chords. He uses open G tuning and removes the bottom string entirely. 5 strings. Why? Because 6 is just too much work. 1 finger across the neck. Hit the strings. That's the riff for Brown Sugar. It's also Start Me Up. It's also Honky Tonk Women. Same riff. Different speed. Different key. That is the entire catalog. By the mid-1980s, the Stones were a disaster. Keith and Mick were at full war. They released Dirty Work in 1986, and it sounded exactly like the title, like the band falling down the stairs during a domestic dispute. Keith's solos on that record are barely musical, out of tune, missed beats, wrong strings. But because he's Keith Richards, people call it swagger. They call it feel. No, it has arthritis. In 1989, the Steel Wheels Tour rolled out with stages so enormous they were designed entirely to distract from the fact that the music was exhausted. Keith would hit one big open chord, pose for the cameras, then wander the stage looking confused for 5 minutes. When solo time arrived, he'd play a few thin Chuck Berry licks and hand the heavy lifting to Ronnie Wood. He hides behind the outlaw image, the bandana, the skull ring, the air of not caring. That's the tragedy. He really doesn't care. He stopped practicing in 1968 and just kept cashing the checks.
I'll tell you. Make a grown man cry.
Carlos Santana played Woodstock in 1969, and it was extraordinary. He was on acid. The guitar neck looked like a snake. He played with genuine fire, and then he decided he was a spiritual guru. He started wearing all white, talking about angels and cosmic vibrations. The music transformed into something that felt like getting your teeth drilled by someone who genuinely believed they were healing you. Santana has one specific sound. High-pitched, piercing, cut straight through your eardrums. He holds notes until they beg for mercy. That sustained, screaming whine he calls soul, and everyone else calls a headache. And while he's doing it, he makes the face. Eyes squeezed shut, lip bitten. A slight grimace, like he's passing a kidney stone but trying to remain spiritual about it. Those notes are not coming from the heavens. They're coming from the minor pentatonic scale. The first scale you learn in lesson 1. He never learned a second one. By the late 1980s, Santana was fading. Spiritual jazz fusion was not moving units. He was becoming a state fair act. But then in 1999, he committed the ultimate career crime. A total, shameless, beautifully executed sellout. He released Supernatural, brought in pop stars. Half his age. Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20. Wyclef Jean, and became a backing musician on his own album. Smooth was everywhere, inescapable. Every radio, every hour. And there was Carlos in the background, fedora on, kidney stone face fully activated, playing the same fill he played in 1970. He won 9 Grammys. 9. For playing 5 notes slowly over other people's songs. He talks about music as a message of love and light. His career is a message about branding. He turned his guitar into a logo and his one scale into a pension plan. David Gilmour is treated like a religious figure. People talk about his tone like it has healing properties. One note from Gilmour, they say, is worth 1,000 from anyone else. That is extremely convenient for a man who plays as slowly as humanly possible. Any slower and he'd be going backwards through time. Pink Floyd in the 1970s were genuinely revolutionary, but by the mid-1980s, the band had imploded. Roger Waters, the furious architect behind all those lyrics, quit in 1985, convinced the band couldn't survive without him. He was so certain he actually sued to stop them using the name. Gilmour's response? He didn't need Roger's anger. He just needed the lasers. 1987, he released a momentary lapse of reason under the Pink Floyd name. Massive hit. Also sounded like music for a planetarium gift shop. Safe, polished, extraordinarily slow. His technique is simple. Bend a string up, hold it 5 full seconds, drown it in reverb, then make a face. Like he's just smelled something magnificent. Crowd goes wild. The 1994 Division Bell Tour arrived with a giant disco ball, flying inflatable pigs, a circular screen playing cartoons. All of it necessary because the band on stage was essentially asleep. Gilmour stood in one spot for 3 hours in a t-shirt and jeans, looking like your dad grilling on a Sunday. The solo on Comfortably Numb is legendary. He plays a phrase, stops, plays it again, stops. It's like a conversation with someone who keeps forgetting what they were going to say. Fans call it profound. They say the silence between the notes is the whole point. At what point does restraint become an excuse? Gilmour found that answer decades ago and has been living there comfortably, numb, ever since. In the 1960s, somebody graffitied Clapton is God on a wall in London. That person was either profoundly deaf or had simply not heard Jimi Hendrix yet. Clapton is the undisputed king of the middle of the road. Never takes a risk. Never plays a note that might disturb somebody. He sings about cocaine but makes it sound like a cup of Earl Grey. In the 1960s with Cream, there was real fire. Loud, mean, dangerous. But then, the 1970s arrived and Clapton decided he wanted to be a soft rock singer. He traded a Les Paul for a Stratocaster, a thinner sound to match a thinner ambition, started wearing suits, started performing a polite version of Layla, not the howling electric original, but the acoustic sleepy version that sounds like it was recorded in a waiting room. By the 1980s, fully sanitized. Albums produced by Phil Collins. Synthesizers. Drum machines. Armani jackets with the sleeves rolled up. He looked like a stockbroker on a casual Friday. His 1986 Color of Money contribution, It's in the Way That You Use It, said everything. A synthesizer carried the main riff. He had buried his own instrument under Hollywood production. Then came the MTV Unplugged session in 1992 that ended all remaining doubt. He sat on a stool and stripped Layla of everything that made it dangerous. The famous riff, the screaming solo, and turned it into something suitable for a very tasteful funeral. The world loved it. Grammys followed. He even licensed After Midnight to a beer commercial. A guitar god, flogging lager. Clapton took the blues, music born from real pain and fury, and pressure washed the soul out of it. He made it safe for people who drive Volvos and have strong opinions about decking. Eric Clapton didn't slow hand. He just stopped.
We gonna shake, jump, and shout. On the coast.
The night belongs to Michelob.
And there you have it. The greatest guitarists in history, collectively, playing less than your nephew managed in his third lesson. If you think I missed someone even more criminally overrated, drop their name in the comments. Like and subscribe to Sprout, and remember, less is more, unless you're actually boring.